Weirdos are an important element to any art form. In a world where the franchise is king, having someone around to say, screw what sells, I'm doing my own thing, is absolutely necessary. In the gaming world, arguably, the biggest name in Strange is Suda 51. After the meteor of oddity known as Killer 7 hit the Western market, deep-core gamers were wondering what next was up the sleeve of this new enigmatic designer. That trick turned out to be No More Heroes. A frenetic, ridiculously violent and profane adventure that was visually parallel to Killer 7, but with the balls-to-the-wall mentality not seen in his North American debut. A flashy leading man with a lightsaber cutting down hundreds, yes, thousands of minions up to a blood-soaked final encounter. This was Suda reaching out to the mass market without compromising his now unmistakable and bewildering style. At the time, No More Heroes was a deranged standout on not only the Wii, but consoles in general. Although just ask the makers of the Seaman. Sometimes, something original doesn't stand the test of time.
You may not think I'm attractive, but your wife will.
So, is the PS3 port a hero, or has it joined the dark side? I'll find out when I recomplete No More Heroes.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of the Completionist New Game Plus, a show which I'm recompleting the first 120 games from the original Completionist lineup. More on that in the description box down below. I have always loved No More Heroes. It's a game that I've been playing when no one else was, and to this day, it's one of my favorite treasures of the Wii generation. However, quite some time after it came out on the Wii, they released a PS3 port called No More Heroes, Heroes Paradise. This is the kind of thing that I never really wanted to try out because the motion control was so good on the Wii. That's a weird sentence to say when I'm talking about games on the Wii, but I'm intrigued. I think the PS3 is a better console. So today, we're gonna take another look at No More Heroes. Let's begin.
In 2008, I was a part of the Blue Polo Battalion at Best Buy. I worked in the gaming area back in the day. Buried among the new wave of consoles, I was charged with putting the best face on any game system. If someone had an Xbox, I was told to sell them a Wii. If they had a PlayStation, I was told to sell them a Wii. Point is, I had to sell a lot of Wiis, and at the time, the Wii had gained the reputation of a family console. Nowadays, family entertainment barely exists when Game of Thrones is one of the most popular things on TV, and Big Bang Theory has the subtext that Sheldon buried a bunch of teenagers alive under his apartment complex. But back in 08, motion-based accessibility made gaming more intuitive, and therefore piqued the interest of people less likely to play. Unfortunately, this earned the Wii a reputation of a casual system. To break it from this presumption and to sell the system, I would show prospective buyers that the Wii did indeed have something for those more inclined towards the mature side of things. But with the stigma around Manhunt 2, my go-to every single time was No More Heroes. In 2007, game designer Goichi Suda, aka Suda 51, aka Suda 51, had already established a reputation in Japan as a headstrong outsider. He got his big break writing scenarios for Super Fire Pro Wrestling 3 that he applied for in between shifts as, and I'm not making this up, an Undertaker. Definitely makes sense when you look at his work. A lot of death and luchador masks everywhere. After directing at Human Entertainment, Goichi Suda established his own development firm, Grasshopper Manufacture, and changed his persona to Suda 51. The play on his name, Go meaning 5 and Ichi meaning 1. Grasshopper developed games that had a timeshare on the outside of convention, like The Silver Case or Michigan Report from Hell, a game that you film rather than participate in. One day, Nintendo made a deal with Capcom to help stem flagging sales of the GameCube. What came was known as the Capcom 5, two of which were completely forgettable, two were classics, and one was Suda 51's tale of a schizophrenic hitman, Killer 7. Although his entry into Western gaming wasn't a commercial success and critics were divided, it undeniably understandably made an enormous splash in the community with its distinct gameplay and off-the-wall presentation. Regardless if they liked or hated Killer 7, critics were interested to see what Suda was up to next. After a couple of licensed anime games, Grasshopper announced the release of Suda 5-1's next directional effort, No More Heroes. He promised an open-world adventure in a more charismatic environment, a game that would be more violent than famous strangling simulator Manhunt 2, and something more along the lines of a mainstream action movie. And the last time I played this game, I was really hitting my stride as the completionist. I was 27 episodes in, feeling more confident in my abilities, and my beard was somewhere in between recent Steve Carell and freshly insane Jim Carrey. So I gave No More Heroes a finish it rating, but this time I'm playing the PS3 port, the redundantly titled No More Heroes, Heroes Paradise, an HD remaster with brand new collectibles, modes, unlocks, and apparently even some DLC. If the game is pretty enough and the new content is really worth diving into, then this may push it into the completed side of things. I really liked the original game, but it did come with some flaws. Pacing and gameplay issues did pop up, but the characters and overall style of the game were so different at the time, small problems didn't really faze me. That being said, the sword-based beat-em-up genre has had a lot of strong entries since 2008, and strange stylized games have become much more prevalent. So there is a possibility that this game may not cut the mustard, even with a 3-foot-long killer fluorescent light bulb. At first look, No More Heroes has a simple layout. An assassin is charged with the task of hunting down a series of other killers. But that literally is the box art description, if you will. Essentially, what we have here is a dude named Travis Touchdown who just goes ahead and buys a beam katana because, yo, that sounds tight. And then he meets this hot chick and it kind of makes him do this whole crazy assassin thing. Travis's name in Japanese, by the way, is Tora Bisu. Tora in Japanese means tiger and Bisu means screw. Tiger screw touchdown. There it is, the game in a nutshell. The game is coated in tigers and shares the aggressive penchant for shredding you would see in the Jungle Cat. It doesn't take long for you to realize why the word screw applies to the themes of this game, especially with Travis's primary motivation being the conquest to get his employer into bed. And then there's touchdown. It's hard to think of a word that more unmistakably symbolizes Americana. Take Suda 5-1's love for wrestling and sci-fi, filter it through with his twisted absurdism, sprinkle in some otaku culture, and it's difficult to imagine anything but No More Heroes. So, let's get started.
It's game time.
Okay, anytime now. Alright, the loading times are a little long in this port. Kind of weird. It seems like something you would fix in a port, especially a port from a backward system, but oh well, nobody's perfect. We open with a post-game of Travis's most recent booze bender. He was approached by the seductive, mysterious, and professional sociopath Sylvia Crystal. She gives Travis a simple mission: kill his way to the top of the United Assassinations Association list of hit persons. He agrees. Travis wants to be the best, but even more, he wants to sleep with Sylvia. Ah, the classic love story of murdering your way into someone's pants. Luckily, they all live in the same city, Santa Destroy. Travis Touchdown was modeled after Johnny Knoxville of Jackass fame. Like Johnny, Travis balances the line between stupid and proficient. He's the sort of guy you simultaneously want to and couldn't stand hanging out with. You could boil him down to a libido with the sword, but he's a bit more than that. Take a look around his apartment and you'll find that he's a nerd obsessed with action figures, anime, pro wrestling, and his lovable little cat, Jean. What I found interesting about Travis, though, is something a bit under the surface. Something that shows Suda 5-1's complexity even among his most sophomoric moments. Look again at Travis's room and listen to his voicemails. He's lonely. His only real friend works for the local video store where he rents wrestling tapes and instructional videos on how to pick up women. He's got nobody. And now knowing that, the dialogue he shares with characters like the Neo Samurai Shinobu or my future waifu Speedbuster becomes a little bit more than just innuendo thrown around for laughs. But it's an analogy for Travis's frustration when it comes to meeting someone he can care for. I know it sounds pretentious, but without spoiling anything, check out his fight with Holly Summers and tell me I'm not onto something. That doesn't mean No More Heroes is high concept at all. It's definitely more about flavor than substance. Santa Destroy and its neighborhood Watch from Hell are outrageous characters with mostly vague backstories and blurry motivations. No More Heroes relies on distinct environments and over-the-top dialogue in brief but outrageous cutscenes for less of an understanding and more of a feeling. No more exemplified in the end when a giant piece of exposition is literally fast forwarded through when the characters involved agree that it will slow the pace of the game down and bore the player. When someone claims a piece of art is style over substance, it's usually meant as an insult. But I think Suda 5-1 and the rest of Grasshopper heard that phrase and said, sounds good. Let's get some kick-ass rock tracks, some laser swords, a bit of ultra violence going on, and we're good. Just make sure they know it was us. The PS3 HD version enhances the experience tenfold. With crisp lines and vibrant colors, this is the best thing that happened to No More Heroes in its climb to the next generation. The sharp visual contrast makes it look like Frank Miller drew an anime. But, and this is a big but, sometimes a little substance is necessary. Santa Destroy is slated as a rundown last resort city. It's supposed to feel sketchy and isolated. It does, but unfortunately doesn't have personality. Most of the town consists of nameless bland buildings. That's a bit of a surprise. Suda 5-1 has loaded this game up with references, homages, and direct lifts of his favorite things. So much so, his QA testers had to clue the development team in on how some things were guaranteed to get them sued by George Lucas. So it's a surprise that the open world was neglected by someone who has wedged as much Star Wars as he could into each corner of the interiors of this game. Some more sights throughout the city would have been appreciated since there's no fast travel method. Maybe if there was some form of combat along the way, the trek would be more interesting. Up until the release of No More Heroes, sword-based combat wasn't quite nailed on the Wii. Now Red Steel tried and they got close, but they dropped the ball when they realized they also had to make a video game. No More Heroes decided to go with the motion-enhanced controls. Positioning the stick and hitting the right button will provide either a high or low stance. Use those to create openings in the enemy's defense, and then when the time is right, you'll be prompted to whip the sticks into a direction and you'll full-on take out your opponent on the mat. Even though the motion controls don't match move for move, combat still feels full and involved. Except we have one big problem here. I don't know how this happened. Somewhere from the Wii to the PS3, the controls got worse. Buttons don't respond accurately, the controller itself is awful when it comes to some of the motion stuff, and they even applied the PlayStation Move to work with this game. Unfortunately, it handles like ass. In fact, both versions of playing this way, whether it be PS3 controller or Move controller, are awful. Delayed inputs or no inputs at all, it's just a chaotic mess. That seems like something you'd fix in a port. After the trip to the Bellagio of Blood, a slot machine begins to roll and RNG Genova decides whether or not to give you one of the 5 power-ups. The most common being cherries that grant a slow motion effect, and the most rare are the 777s. This gives you a massive room clearing explosion, but good luck. It seems they made it as rare as actually scoring a jackpot. You can go through a few playthroughs without even seeing it. And failing in this game sucks because when you fail, it's all the way back to Travis's home. And you have to drive all the way back to the mission at hand to start over. There's 10 assassination missions that you have to save up money for in order to participate in. Those missions where you fight these assassins are awesome. This gameplay is sick. I wish the whole game was like this. Unfortunately, it is then divided into open world gameplay. You have to run around and do chores, help out other people, do mundane tasks, and even farm some of the side missions where you can rack up kills for points. Mix in this massive open world thing with this cool ass bike, and all of it seems really fun. But, and here comes another big but, you also have to use the money you earn from all these side missions to progress in the main story, which means you have to grind a lot just to continue the game normally. Some are fun in their own way, but you'll have to replay them a few dozen times if you want to nab all the achievements. This all seems like stuff that you would fix in a port. At least while I'm completing it, the game always looks cool. Oh God, what is going on? Yo, Brett, what's wrong with the edit?
It's not the edit, man. That's what the game looks like.
That's the game? I thought this was a remaster. Oh my God. It's just a port, a really shitty port. Well, that's a bummer, to say the least. This game is indeed full of screen tearing, and sometimes when you get coins, it almost slows down to a slideshow pace, and I mean the slideshow that your aunt puts on over vacation and has a 9-minute story for every plate of hummus she ate. That seems like something you'd fix in a port. Now, collectibles do net you some extra goodies. There are these Luvikov balls. Trade those in with a drunken loner to learn some pretty useful moves. And then there are the scattered trading cards, like a Magic the Gathering expansion full amount. Bagging the other trophies isn't hard as much as it's arbitrarily time-consuming. I'm used to getting perfect rankings in missions and side quests, but killing 5,100 enemies, even over 3 playthroughs, this is a bastard. Maybe if the controls were under control and replaying missions didn't involve unnecessary retreading, it might be fine. In my previous review, I had left out a few of the flaws. I was having a great time. The novelty of style and crazed storytelling more than made up for the hiccups in gameplay. But this port just exacerbated the loading times, the frame rate issues, the less than perfect controls, and not to mention the countless amount of times the game freaking crashed. And all of that dragged the rest of the game down with it. Things I overlooked in the original became more aggravating while bookended by these giant problems. That seems, everybody all together now, like something you'd fixed in a port. That's right, live audience. Tell them what they've won. Heroes Paradise doesn't leave you empty-handed. Grabbing all the swords will unlock not only another ending, but a brand new final boss. With all the trading cards collected in Normal and New Game Plus, you'll gain access to the concept art for the game. Unlike most games, it's cool to see there's plenty here that aren't just rough drawings of the characters. After beating the game your first time, there are 2 New Game Plus options. One called Bitter, essentially hard mode but with the additional sword upgrades and trading cards, and then another mode with a little more sizzle. It's called Very Sweet Mode. This new addition essentially add skimpy costumes to the female characters in the second run. I guess that's fun if that's your thing. Personally, I would have given it up if it meant the port's development team could have spent a little bit more time on the collision detection, but a new mode don't matter if I don't want to play the game again. The overall faulty controls and frustration made this a fool's errand. You get nothing for it except lockjaw from clenching your teeth together. The game has no measurement of progression, so getting all the trophies isn't going to reward you anything in the game. My last video on this game was very kind to No More Heroes. I gave it a finish it rating simply because I was underwhelmed by the filler content and repetition it took to unlock every costume, sword, and mission. It had nothing to do with performance or style. Now, Heroes Paradise has added something, and except for the HD resolution, not many good somethings. This is a mediocre port on a good day, and a pile of stink on a bad day. The original was a hidden gem for the Nintendo Wii. This version is an exposed wound for the PS3. Heroes Paradise was developed by AQ Interactive, and get ready for the surprise of the century, it was the first game they ever developed. So we can't blame Grasshopper here. If it was done with some proficiency, this could have pushed a good but flawed game into classic territory. Instead, it feels like a shaky money grab. Thankfully, the Wii version is out there, and even with some repetitive gameplay and overlooked convenience factors, it's still worth showing to a buddy for a first taste of Suda 5.1's incredible oddness. PS3 version is a great meal, just made by a bad chef. In my playthrough of No More Heroes Paradise, there were 3 full playthroughs, including a New Game Plus playthrough and a Bitter playthrough, 137 shirts purchased, 199 collectibles obtained, 5,108 kills, 65 hours of total playtime, and 75 times I said, this seems like something you would fix in a port. Don't get me wrong, I like this game, but with New Game Plus, it gives us cool opportunities to take different looks at games. So what ends up happening is that this video is not about No More Heroes, but it's about the port of No More Heroes for PS3. And that one just does not make the cut.
Never in my life did I ever think that the PS3 version of a game would be worse than the Wii version. No More Heroes on the PS3 is not a great time. The controls are fine. Graphically, it's not optimized as well as it should be, and the move capabilities they attach to it are not good at all. More importantly, there are way more bugs. The stuff they added in here isn't that much more fun, and overall, this game runs poorly. So I have to say, with that in mind, guys, the PS3 version No More Heroes gets my completionist rating of play it.
Play it.
That's all the time we have for today, guys. So please, as always, let us know what you thought about today's episode somewhere on the internet. If you want to see more cool, exclusive Completionist content, head over to patreon.com/thecompletionist today and sign up for our new tiers we've got going on over there. We have exclusive stuff only available for those of you who subscribe, so go on and check it out. Guys, thank you very much. Have a great weekend. We'll see you all next time. Bye.